watching Podlandia. Hi, I'm Fred Armisen.
I'm Carrie Brownstein.
And this is AO Rewatch.
AO Rewatch. We're going to be looking back on Portlandia.
We're going to take a look at all of the episodes that we've done of Portlandia, which ran from 2011 to 2018, and talk about them as we've been watching them.
Yes. Nice to see you, by the way.
Nice to see you, too. I'm so happy we're doing this.
Me too.
I really haven't had an opportunity to watch the show in the meantime since we stopped. So it's been really fun for me.
Same here. It's re-airing on Netflix. So I feel like a lot of people are watching it right now and have started to text me or call me or just come up to me, people I don't know, and are mentioning things again. It sort of never went away, but it feels also like a refresher.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah. Also, like people send me memes and stuff.
Yes.
And I believe there's also a channel on some cable systems that runs the show continuously.
Sure.
So
whatever you say. Why are we doing this podcast?
Aside from it being on Netflix now and on that cable channel, we've always remained friends anyway. So
yes,
it's not like we haven't seen each other. We've worked together. So let's talk about the roots of the show.
Yes.
Why we started, where it all came from. And it goes back to the 90s in that I was and am a huge fan of Sleater-Kinney and was friends with your drummer at the time, Janet Weiss. And also we shared many friends, because I was in a band in the 90s and you were as well. We shared some friends. We knew many of the same people.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that some listeners might not know who or what Sleater-Kinney is, which is a band that I formed in college in the 1990s in Olympia, Washington. And Fred was in a band, Trenchmouth, in Chicago. And at the time, you know, pre-internet, it was just word of mouth and you met people through touring. So, you know, you would go, there was a whole sort of circuit and system of going from one town to the next. You would meet other people in the music scene. You really relied on them for everything, you know, where are the best places to eat? What venues should we play at? You know, this is how you also discovered music. Just people would sort of point you in a right direction, or you listened to a certain label from a city and you got to know all those bands. And I remember sleeping on your couch. You were out of town.
Yep.
I was on tour. I stayed at your apartment.
Yep.
My friend was friends with Damon.
That's right.
Who's in Trenchmouth. And I just remember, oh yeah, this is Fred's house. Oh, okay. I know of Fred. So this was before you were on SNL. I just knew you as a drummer in a punk band, and you knew me as, you know, a guitarist in Sleater-Kinney. Those are sort of pre-TV identities, and still an identity I think that we hold on to is, you know, we still consider ourselves musicians. And I think the lens through which we view a lot of phenomena was very much formed in these early years when we played music, and by the scenes we came up in, you know, that sensibility, very 90s, very sort of indie punk rock. You know, we've not only did it inform us, but it's something that we've grappled with, you know, the stuff that really was helpful and also the stuff that kind of hampered us at times. And we'll end up talking about that a lot in the podcast because, you know, my friend calls it punk damage. You know, you're just a lot of the stuff was so strident, and, you know, you sort of fight with that later, what was useful about that sensibility and what, just made things more difficult. And we infuse a lot of this into the show.
Including characters that we met while we were on tour or recording. People who had their own studios, people who ran labels, people who had venues, fans, what the whole experience was like in the music world. We do revisit on Portlandia.
Exactly. So going back, basically, we were in each other's circles, you know, sort of extended social circles. And then you were officially on SNL and Sleater-Kinney was touring and we were coming through New York. And through our drummer, Janet Weiss, who you mentioned you were friends with, you invited us to SNL. It was Jennifer Garner was the host. Beck was the musical guest. We were really excited to go, but unfortunately, we had our own show. I think we were playing at Irving Plaza. And so you said, why don't you come to the after party? So, we played the show. We showed up to this after party, and that's where I met you. And you had a little button with my face on it.
Yeah. Because at the time, I think from that album, you had pins for each band member.
Yes. And they were taken from when we had toured Australia and we're each holding koalas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had the Carrie one on.
You had the Carrie one on, which is, flattering. And I was also like, oh, who is this guy that's like wearing a button with my face on it? And
in the writers, in my office at SNL, I purposefully kept it undecorated. I didn't want it to be homey or anything like that. But on my bulletin board, I had a poster of Sleater-Kinney. And it was one of those smaller posters. It wasn't like a poster. It was like one of those little ones. And the point about all of this is that Sleater-Kinney is my favorite band. And when I first heard you guys play, when I first heard your records, it was really an epiphany for me. It really was in my life. I think like many people who grew up on certain types of music, you start with the Beatles and the Who, and then punk sort of took over. And for me, Prince, these were all sort of like answers to what I used to listen to before.
Right.
So, punk, and then Prince sort of was like, whoa, that's what Sleater-Kinney was that for me. Where after all that, I was like, oh, now this is what I've been looking for. And I was obsessed. People use that word a lot, obsessed, but I would say that is an accurate description of how much I listened to Sleater-Kinney.
What's interesting about that, well, first of all, thank you. And it's always been a source of pride for me that you're such a fan of the band, because you are such an amazing musician. And anyway, so thank you. But I remember back in the day when I would meet some of your co-stars on SNL, Amy, Tina, they would say like, oh, Fred's obsessed with your band. Fred loves Sleater-Kinney. Like, I think they were tired of hearing about Sleater-Kinney, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah. Which was, I was like, I'm so sorry that our mutual friend talks about the band. I mean, they were really nice about it, but they just thought it was kind of funny because I think compared to some of your cohorts, your interests were a little bit different. Music was such an obsession for you, and your musical taste was not mainstream.
That sounds right.
So after this night, I remember us keeping in touch. And at one point you said, hey, it'd be really fun to collaborate on something. And again, I assumed, well, we'll collaborate on music, but you actually were interested in shooting a video, doing some comedy, and you had been asked by the John Kerry campaign, presidential campaign, to make a video. And this is then the first time that we collaborate, and you fly to Portland and we shoot this very silly video, and you can explain it because...
Well, at the time, Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, was on trial. So at this point, the government had been overthrown, and in court, he didn't have his military outfit on. He had a sort of version of a suit that looked kind of like rock and roll-y, meaning like, when someone like Pete Townsend or Paul Weller or whoever, when they dress kind of nicely. And he also had like, his beard was different and his hair was different. And he had he looked sort of British to me. And I just thought, what if there's this character of Saddam Hussein who's British and is only into music? Same guy, but he doesn't want to talk about the dictatorship. So we did this video called Boink.
Mm-hmm, which was the name of the cable access show.
Yes.
This fake cable access show that my character, Cindy Overton, hosts.
And I think you thought of the title right away. I think in the moment you just said, "You're welcome to Boink."
Yeah. And I'm getting the first post-bunker interview, like an exclusive with Saddam Hussein.
And I had I had like a fake beard on, a suit. I think I might have even put like a little bit of like dark under my eyes, or my eyebrows. I know I made my eyebrows really dark, and I had the guitar. I might have had your guitar, and I think this was in Corin's basement.
Yeah, so my bandmate, Corin Tucker from Sleater-Kinney, we shot it in her basement.
Yeah.
That was the set for Boing. You had a guitar, and you just played guitar a lot. You spoke in a British accent.
Yep. And you just were interviewing, and like you were already a character, sort of like nervously, trying to get information from Saddam Hussein, and not nervous, like sort of cable access vibe.
Yeah, well, what a big get for my show.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember that shooting these opening credits. By the way, what did we have for a crew? Just Patrick, I think, right?
Jeff Buchanan.
Jeff Buchanan. Okay. And he did everything.
Yeah.
So Jeff Buchanan did all of it, the camera work, editing. The opening credits there was graffiti near Corin's house, and the video was you scraping off the graffiti, cleaning off the graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your expression was, these dumb kids making, and I remember in that moment realizing, which I was already convinced anyway, I was like, oh, this is who I want to work with. We were in line when it comes to tone and comedy. I just feel like we were like right exactly on the same page of the message we were trying to send, whatever that is. And we'll talk about that too, and what it goes back to, what bands it was inspired by, what comedy, whatever it was exactly what I was looking for. It did feel like a puzzle piece.
Well, I will say that whose sensibility it didn't work for was the John Kerry campaign, who never used that video, but also lost the election. So just putting that out there.
But we'll also put out there that should he run again,
exactly,
that video is there.
And really holds up.
Because
Yeah.
I believe the original was 8 minutes long.
Or longer, maybe 14. Yeah. Throw it up there. Yeah. Anyway, vote for Carrie. So after that, we definitely enjoy working with each other. We decided we're going to keep doing this. And you kept coming up to Portland. And I think this really helps create a look and a feel for what ends up being Portlandia. We just happened to keep shooting. You lived in New York, but we kept shooting in Portland. We kept using local restaurants and businesses. We went to a place called Reading Frenzy, which was near Powell's Books, which is this really famous independent bookstore in Portland, kind of a tourist destination. And there was this little shop called Reading Frenzy. And it had like fanzines and, small print books. And the proprietor, Chloe Udaly, she was an acquaintance of mine. And she said, yeah, you can shoot at my store. So we had these characters, Tony and Candace. And I mean, I remember going and buying a very inexpensive wig, just, long, straight, black hair with bangs. And we went to Goodwill and bought some clothing. We just sort of threw this together. And then we just went and collected flyers from like co-ops and other little like cork boards and whatnot. And just the whole conceit of this sketch was just us deciding which flyers to put up in the store at this little bookshop. And that was the birth of Feminist Bookstore.
I don't even remember where my wig came from. Probably from the same place. I do remember we went, there was like one of those like just wig shops.
Yeah, Wigland. It's on Northeast Broadway. It's still there. Great wig shop. We bought inexpensive wigs.
Yeah.
Because I remember later when Tony and Candace became characters on Portlandia, obviously we had to improve upon these wigs. But yeah,
it's funny because I don't remember either of us having like the ambition of like, listen, if we get this together, we could really pitch this as a show someday. It was for no reason. It was just, let's just do this.
Yeah. And we made 7 or 8 videos before we even thought about it as anything bigger than it was. We were just enjoying working together. We were just having our friends film us. At this point, it's Patrick Stanton. We did one in LA. We did one in New York. But most of the time we were in Portland. And, in addition to Feminist Bookstore, there are a couple other, we did have these bike rights activists.
Yep.
And you end up having a character, Spike, who's kind of a, bicycle rights enthusiast. So yeah, there's just these these kernels of what would become Portlandia. We called it Thunder Ant. We were originally going to call it Thunder Egg, which is the official state rock of Oregon. And then we looked at MySpace, and there was a band with like 70 followers and you are very kind in this way. And you were just like, I just don't want to take the name Thunder Egg. There's already this established band. So we changed it to Thunder Ant. And that was the moniker, that we used until your manager, Tim Sarkis, who then became my manager later, said, hey, you guys, this is a thing. Like, you guys you love working with each other. There's a sensibility and a point of view. Like, what if this was a TV show? We never said, this was just a completely organic dynamic. It stemmed from our friendship. And we did not start out with like, hey, let's pitch a show.
Nope.
It's hard to stress how different this is from the way people approach things. Like, in some ways, it's much more analogous to the way I formed Sleater-Kinney, or the way you probably formed Trenchmouth, which was just, who are people I want to be around? Who are people who I respect and admire and I glean inspiration from? I want to keep hanging out with this person, but I want to keep hanging out with them in a way where we get to do something creative. And that was Thunder Ant. It was not, hey, let's set a general meeting and this is Fred Armisen. I think you guys would like each other. Or even like, hey, we're friends, but like, what's the most ambitious thing we could do together? It was, we had almost like 10 sketches, 10 videos before we even thought of this as a show.
And it was just online. We didn't try to monetize it in any way. It was just these videos that were up. I don't think we even told that many people about it. We didn't have a campaign of like, you got to watch these videos. They were just up there.
Yeah. But then we did decide, like, let's pitch this as a show. Our friend Patrick, who we mentioned, he flew to New York. I was actually living in New York at the time. We filmed a little introduction and we kind of put together a little, I guess would be called sizzle reel, of just basically like a demo video. Like, here's a proof of concept. And that was the pitch. And I'm actually really glad that we had sketches, something to actually show them. We didn't have a script, which is sometimes what people pitch with. We didn't really have like a story outline. We just said, this is sort of what it would be like. It's really just the two of us doing silly things. And we pitched that. Well, first of all, I guess we should talk about, you were on SNL and we were actually required in this obligatory way, like, Broadway Video, which is Lorne's production company, they have the right of first refusal. We literally had to ask Lorne for permission, and we assumed he would say, thanks, but no. Like, this is too weird, too indie for me.
I have, a giant, by the way, Lorne Michaels, the creator of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But we did, and through his company, Andrew Singer, at Broadway Video, decided to take it on.
Yeah, and he went into the rooms with us. We pitched to Comedy Central and IFC, and was there one more? Did we pitch to?
I can't remember.
I remember Comedy Central. Oh, and Adult Swim.
Okay.
And Adult Swim and Comedy Central both said, no one does sketch shows. And then IFC, which was the independent film channel, and they mostly really did just show like Tarantino films and, just indie movies. And they were just starting to do original programming. They had a couple things on, but very, very few shows. And I think we just lucked out. They were really looking to start doing more of that. And they needed creators and shows. And they took a chance on us and said, okay, and ordered a pilot. Just a pilot, not straight to series. Not anything too, big or like it just, they were like, okay, we'll try a pilot.
Before we get to that, I just remembered that. You remember the video that we made in New York?
In my apartment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a similar setup to this, where it was two little desks facing each other.
That's right.
I don't know what the premise was. It was almost like we were going to start each episode with us talking to each other or something.
That's right.
And I also want to point out that at the time, you were new to the world of, I can't say new to the world of comedy, but just let's say new to Lorne Michaels' world.
Oh, I mean, that's like an understatement. Like I was
yeah.
I mean, thanks, but it's even more of an understatement.
And you were and are 50%. You were a co-collaborator of this show, that we were pitching that didn't have a title. So Lorne had trust, but still there was like a moment that sealed it for him.
Right. I mean, contextually, you're working with the best of the best. If this was going to be like designed in a lab, you're already working with Maya Rudolph. You're working with Kristen Wiig. You're working with Amy Poehler. Like certainly someone easily could have said, oh, Fred wants to do his own show separate from SNL. Great. Well, let's pair him with Maya. Let's put him with Kristen. Like, of course. And you and I were fairly untested, in the bigger scheme of things, and certainly untested with Lorne. He knew that you and I were friends. That's about it. But we didn't know each other personally. So you get married and you ask me to be the best man, essentially, and to give the toast. And I was the only person.
Yeah, there were no other speeches. It wasn't like no family, nobody, just you,
just me. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to do a whole series of toasts. Can you do the lead off toast, or can you MC? It was like, hey, we don't want to do a lot of talking and stuff. We want to keep it simple, so it's just me. So I write a toast, and I remember I'm at the wedding venue, and I look around, and it's all the aforementioned people, plus Tina Fey, plus you're marrying Elizabeth Moss. This is the peak of Mad Men, so it's like John Hamm, it's Matt Weiner, the creator of the show. I mean, this is a very like stacked event. And I'm an indie musician, and I give this toast. It's comedic, it's heartfelt, and I kind of can't believe that I wasn't more scared. But I did it. And I remember later you telling me that was kind of your audition for Lorne. Now, if you had told me that beforehand.
Well, I didn't know beforehand.
No, I know. But if I had even thought that could have been the case, I wasn't thinking of any of that. I mean, you're just one of my best friends. I just, am wishing you the best and trying to create some like context for this, ceremony and for these nuptials. And later, when you couched it like that, and when you sort of realized that was the case, it was sort of mind-blowing, because in retrospect, I should have been so much more nervous.
Yeah, but it was so well written and well done. And it was Lorne also who told me later. Like, I'm sure he didn't realize it, but it was like, as it was happening, he was like, oh,
right.
That's her audition.
Yeah, and I think what he realized was like, the show is actually reliant on this chemistry. It has to be these two people. Like it's, if it was you and someone from SNL, like that's a whole different show. But this show, what comes to be Portlandia, that's Fred and Carrie. Like the way they connect, what they connect on, what they find funny, their friendship, the seamlessness of it, the intimacy of it. Like we just can't replicate that. Even if we're just pulling from someone that everyone knows, well, that's like a really funny woman that's famous. Like, it just won't be this. It will be something else, and it could be great, but it's not going to be this. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about Lorne is he knows that. He knows that that's how things work. And that trust, that faith in us, I think really went a long way. And he ends up fighting for us at certain moments, especially, we filmed the pilot and he we needed a fast pickup order because you needed to be back on SNL in the fall. We shot the pilot in like May or something. And he's like, you got to decide. Otherwise, if we wait a year, if we sort of dick around, like we all know this is not going to happen. Yeah. And he was a big champion and, still is and came up to Portland often and visited us. And anyway, but that always sort of gives me chills thinking about, like, I get nervous now for an event that took place, 20 years ago.
And he was right. All his instincts were right about it.
Yeah.
So when we we pitched the show at IFC and we didn't have a title just yet.
No, and nor did we pitch it as a show that would be shot in Portland. That to me is always so interesting. Like, we knew that the show had like a certain feel to it, that the sketches had a certain feel. We were definitely reveling in absurdity. We wanted things to be silly, irreverent. Like, there was all these ingredients, but we never actually thought of place as part of that, which is ridiculous because, of course, place was very much informing what we were doing. I just think we didn't take it for granted, and we didn't assume that anyone would sign off on us shooting in Portland. Like most people, especially at the time, now, of course, a lot of things don't shoot in LA, and that's a problem. But at the time, tons of things shot in LA, and that just seemed like a given.
Yeah.
And it was sort of someone else. In fact, it was IFC that was like, of course, you guys should shoot it in Portland.
I think it was.
Or is it
Evan Shapiro? I think.
Okay. Yeah. At IFC.
At IFC. And that was good news. I mean, I love going to Portland anyway. So, and then we shot so much of it there that I love that we got to do that.
I think it absolutely made the show. It looked different. All the people who populated the show in terms of background don't look like, LA actors. Like, it's just like, it feels, everything about it. We shot on location. We didn't end up like setting up at a sound stage and building sets. Like, it became a stand-in. It wasn't Portland, it was Portlandia. And so it became a stand-in for an ideology or of a way of trying to live or do your best, or it allowed it to be heightened. And we wanted something that felt a little bit mythical, a little bit magical. Like, we didn't want to be always grounded in reality. We wanted to be able to like step off into this place that was imaginative and strange. And I think it just coalesced into something. And we were very fortunate because, again, we didn't come into this with like, and this is what we want to do, and it has to be the city. Like, a lot of this we lucked into and then realized later, oh, it had to be this. And it wouldn't have been the same any other way. But yeah, even the title Portlandia didn't exist.
Yeah, we had a few titles in the running. Mm-hmm. And then it was someone at Broadway Video, Hillary Marks, who's from Portland, mm-hmm. who pointed out that there's a statue there mm-hmm. called Portlandia.
Yeah.
And that was an immediate yes.
Yeah.
Like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. It just conjures something. It's just like, oh, okay. It's a place, it's a real place, but it's also an imagined space.
Yeah.
And I think having that kind of blank canvas was really helpful. And yeah, I think the other titles were not great. So I'm glad that's what we ended up
that
on.
Worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a picture of us somewhere mm-hmm. with the whiteboard with the other titles written in.
Oh, yeah.
So
I have a piece here. Other. Yes. One was Stumptown,
yep.
which is, a coffee shop in Portland that's now global, but at the time was a pretty small like, local business. What were some of the others? I don't even remember.
I think something like From the City of Portland or something
really?
like that. That might be wrong, but something with the city, the word city in it.
Oh, okay.
And there's a couple others. I mean, was Thunderant in there?
It maybe was.
I think just as obligatory, let's just add this in as a title idea. And then Jonathan Kreisel, who was at SNL working on some of the short films that they had, like in addition to Lonely Island.
Yeah.
John would do some videos as well. So we met with him, and then he became our co-creator, co-director, or director.
I mean, Jonathan really elevated the show. You and I were thinking in terms of character and story, and Jonathan was thinking visually. And I think as we get into these episodes, I have been struck by how ambitious the visuals are. That, there is a cinematic quality to it that I think I totally credit to Kreisel. He just was thinking big. He didn't want it to look like, okay, it's just people in a room talking. Like he wanted there were a lot of exteriors. There was pacing, like there was visual storytelling. Like I'm really surprised what we were able to pull off. And I think that's just stemming from his, filmmaking prowess. Like I think it was before now he directs a lot of things. This was some of the first stuff he directed. And I think he was like, yeah, I want to do all this big stuff and try it out on the show.
He worked a bit with Tim and Eric and and Nick Kroll. All right. Or was that after?
I think it was at the time. I'm not sure.
But yeah, also I remember him in the writer's room. This is how little I knew. We would have a sketch idea and he would say something like, yeah, but how do you show that?
Right.
Which is a way of saying no. And he was right, where I didn't have an answer. I was like, yeah, that's true. How do we show that, this is a sketch idea?
Yeah. And we'll have Jonathan on the show. We'll have Jonathan on this podcast because, I think it's important to talk to him. He's just so in the DNA of the show.
Yeah.
We were not thinking visually as much as we were content and comedically.
Yeah.
And we brought in Alison Silverman.
Yep.
Who was a writer on the Colbert Report. And what else had she?
She worked on a bunch of stuff, but she was definitely
most recently from at the time Colbert Report. Yeah. And it was kind of just the four of us.
That was it. And we worked out of, whereas like later seasons would work out of Portland. That one, that was at Universal.
In a small office with no desk.
No.
Just a couple chairs.
No. Yeah.
In a room, a whiteboard. And we started thinking of this, mostly the pilot. That was the pilot.
And between the pilot and getting the season ordered, just to give you some more background to it, because of my schedule, we needed like a little bit of a rush answer from IFC.
Yes, which is again very rare.
Yes,
it's hard to really convey how green we were, like how the things that were happening at a rapid pace.
Yes,
were so unusual. Like now we sort of know how glacial development is and production, but we just kept lucking into it. I think partly IFC, their enthusiasm, just getting into doing original programming, they were moving at and able to be more nimble, like moving at a much faster pace.
Yeah.
And it was just the time crunch of you going back to SNL. I think they were a little bit like, if it's not now, never. Okay, so what is it like watching, just going back and looking, like as we launch into this podcast, we've done, for this first episode, we've just started rewatching this stuff.
I love the sort of the blindness of it, the sort of
like the naivete,
like let's just make this thing that but by two people who still have the same viewpoint, but still without like a final goal.
Yeah, there's an innocence to it. I think there's an earnestness to it. For sure. And a sincerity. I think that you and I are sincere people. I think we are not cynics, or at least when I feel that mindset encroaching, I'm always trying to shoo it away. And I think there is a sweetness to the show and a lot of characters. I think I'm reminded of that when I'm watching it. I'm reminded of the fact that we were mostly exploring elements of ourselves, some small facet of our personality or, people we could have been if we had made different decisions. Like we weren't sort of looking out at the world and making other people targets of our derision or scorn. It was like, oh, I'm so curious why I have this part of myself that comes out when these certain things happen. Or it felt very curious and very like like an exploration. And I see that when I watch it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's almost sweeter than I remember in some ways.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. Sweeter than I remember.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you go.
Well, I was going to say, like, the thing, I liked that it's so long ago, and seeing that we were already close friends then.
Yes.
I love that.
And I can even see so we play a version of ourselves in the show, Fred and Carrie. And I will say this now, and I'll point it out later. There's some reality to that. And then I think we wanted to allow Fred and Carrie to be just a little more guileless and clueless and just sillier. So we are just not as smart sometimes. Or I would like to think that this version of myself is smarter than the Portlandia Carrie. And you will see that over and over again. Like, just for the sake of comedy, we just allow this ignorance to come about, just so we're not like stuck and like, well, no, Fred Armisen wouldn't do that. But I do see every once in a while, no, not every once in a while, a lot. I'm like, oh, this is a real conversation. Because there's so much improvisation. I think that's the other thing to point out early on, like, especially in these first couple seasons, we would obviously pitch, sketch ideas, and we did have beats for each sketch and an outline, but there was a very rudimentary script. And if there was a script, we often basically threw it out. And so when I see us talking as Fred and Carrie, but also in other characters, I can tell, oh my gosh, this is just a real conversation you and I are having. I can also tell when we're actually really annoyed at one another. Like when, in terms of like, if someone says something that's annoying, that actually irks Carrie or irks Fred, I can see it. It's an interesting like mirror.
Yeah.
For sure.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Then physically, like, I'm so glad that we grew up on bands, in that whenever I see that bands start looking older, I like it. I like that they had different eras of their existence. So when I look back and I see that, okay, that's a younger version, it's a good feeling. I'm like, hey, that's what the band looked like back then.
That's what we looked like. For me, I feel like the first season, hate my haircut. I'm like, what is that haircut? I basically have had the same hair, by the way, since like 7th grade, different versions of it. This is like, season 1 is like not my favorite version. My bangs don't feel connected to the rest of my hair. It was like I had 2 different people cut it. I might have cut my hair that year. I have no idea. It's very, I just noticed it. I was like, what's happening here? I can't answer that question. Also, I feel like, like I'm wearing lipstick now, but like, I'm like, why is Carrie wearing such bright lipstick in every scene? Like, it's daytime. Like, okay. But I think in my mind, again, in that sort of like naivete, it's like, well, I'm on camera. We should definitely put a lipstick on, it's just like, what? Like, no, what's the reality? And I see that across all characters, like just looking at early versions of like, the costume and the makeup. And even though we were working with consummate professionals, like we all just were like, I don't know. In some ways,
yes.
Sometimes there is just that sort of figuring it out. But I like that. There's a charm to it for me looking back. Like it gave us somewhere to go.
Yeah, I think dress style wise, I'm kind of the same, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes I see myself wearing a hoodie, and I remember at the time thinking, someday I won't wear hoodies anymore.
Oh, that is not true.
And I'm like, still wearing hoodies.
I know.
I really wanted to outgrow it. And this jacket that I'm wearing today, I actually chose not because it matched anything at Portlandia, just because I like green jackets.
Yeah.
But then I did have jackets like this back then. So,
No
but then
doubt.
I'm like, well, I guess that's what I gravitate towards. So I feel mostly good about it. I just wish I had outgrown hoodies.
There's still time.
There's still time.
There's still time.
It'd be nice to sort of put that aside.
You know what a little goal is? You know what a little goal could be is to not wear a hoodie on this podcast.
I love it.
Just let's start small.
Let's try. I'm saying that to myself.
Okay. But then also watching it, I will say, like, you know, I'm just like, this show is very white sometimes. I'm like, I will just look at certain things when I was watching the show. I'm like, oh, there's too many white people in this scene. Like, Dream of the 90s.
Is when to like.
I was just like, oh, like, do better. This is, yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that.
Yeah.
And it does improve. But like watching that, I was like, what?
And there's so many people.
There's so many people
in the video.
Yeah. And I'm just not even specifically that sketch. I think in general, not just about other things. Like I will just say, like, I'm watching some of these sketches and I'm like, I would not do that now.
Right.
You know, like, and I'm sorry, and I'm a flawed person. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this sketch does not hold up to me. I'm not talking about Dream of the 90s. I really love that sketch. But like other sketches. So just so people know, when we're watching this, I'm just like, oh my God.
Yes.
Let's not do that. And we'll talk about those things.
And we did improve. I mean,
Sure.
Definitely, yeah, that got better over time. But yeah.
Yeah. But just, you know, I'm not even talking about Dream of the 90s anymore. Just some other sketches. And I'll say, like, at the beginning of I'll be like, yeah, this one makes me cringe, you know, because you're just like, no. Yeah. I don't have a defense for this one.
I have this is a lame defense.
Oh boy.
No, it's not even a defense. It's not even a defense. It's going to sound defensive.
It already does.
That sometimes I have the same feeling you do, or I'm sorry, I always have the same feeling you do, but sometimes, but I'll remind myself, I'll say, like, I'm Venezuelan. That's just something. I'm like, that's me talking to myself saying, I'm Korean and Venezuelan. I'm going to put that in there as a sort of like, okay, don't be too hard on yourself.
Of course. No, I mean, yeah.
I'm leaving that as I understand that is, you know, it is not a perfect defense, but it's a something that I'll hang on to.
Yeah. We are bringing ourselves to it.
Yeah.
And we each have, we possess multitudes. We have our own identities and indexers of those identities, and we bring our own flaws and contradictions to it. And that's just who we are. I mean, I feel like we're very, like, the show is in conversation with the city, and we are in conversation with the show. Like, to me, Portlandia is kind of a very ongoing discourse, you know? And it's interesting to sort of look back on it. And this, I think, podcast just extends that discourse. You know, I think we always, as we were writing, felt like we're exploring, you know, ideas and phenomena and a way of being in the world, and sort of critiquing it, but also it's, you know, embracing it and just trying to have fun and be funny. And what I like about this podcast is that just continues the conversation. And like, there's no sort of final word on it. Like, certainly a Portlandia sketch is not the final word on anything. Like, our intention was to have fun and make people laugh and, you know, sometimes make people think, or just to, you know, like, be observational. But that's not, you know, like, that doesn't mean we did it the right way.
All the time.
Well, a lot of the time we did.
Yeah.
But I would say a lot of the sketches, in a good way, to me, hold up. And some things we predicted. Some things I was like, well, we were ahead of the curve here.
Oh, yeah. And since then, we've sort of kept in touch about that.
Yeah.
Where we'll see something in the news. I remember when Pitchfork got sold, or when it didn't really get shut down, but sort of bought up by another company.
Yeah.
We had a sketch about that.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I'll just say is that, like, I think another one of our intentions, and one of the reasons I create anything, is to feel a connection with people. And that connection is not always just like joyful. Human connection is also one that's uncomfortable sometimes. And I think that's okay. And we just have to have it be uncomfortable sometimes, because authentic connection and communicating with people is about communicating through the good and bad of it. So I'll just say that, like, the intention, I think, of the show and of this podcast is to feel a human connection and to just ride that out, through all the sort of iterations of what that means. A lot of people, once it came back on Netflix, sort of were as curious as we were, like, what from the show sort of felt ahead of its time, what kind of holds up, what feels like a relic, because we were sort of capturing a specific moment. So it's interesting to kind of take a look at all those things. And there's so many sketches. So it's a really fun journey for us. We hope it is for the audience as well. Plus, the other thing that people may not know is you and I hang out outside of Portlandia. So like we were saying, we hung out before the show started, and we have hung out every year since. So this is, again, it's a continuation of a conversation that we have with each other all the time. Not that we're always talking about the show, but just, we're talking about some of the things that we discussed on the show that we showed on Portlandia. Like, that's just in the ether for us. Like, it's part of our friendship, sort of commenting on and thinking about these things. Plus, we've spent many years in the interim texting each other, I wish the show is still on because I have this idea if we were still doing the show.
So many ideas that would have made sense.
Anyway, thanks for listening. We're excited to bring you back through Portlandia.